President Biden delivered a speech to the United Nations General Assembly today. He called on world leaders to support Ukraine and reiterated U.S. support for the nation. And for more insights on Biden's speech and Communist China's involvement in a UN initiative, we spoke with award-winning international journalist and president of Liberty Sentinel Media, Alex Newman. He's also an Epoch Times contributor. Alex Newman, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So, Alex, world leaders gathered in New York today for the UN General Assembly. What was your biggest takeaway?
I think the most important thing that's happening right now is actually the SDG Summit of 2023. We're at the halfway point now since the Sustainable Development Goals, as they're called, were adopted in 2015 by the UN General Assembly, including Barack Obama, by the way, a big enthusiastic supporter of these. And at the time, the head of the UN General Assembly was calling this the Master Plan for Humanity. It's an all-encompassing policy document that deals with every area of our lives. And so they're actually having this critical summit there. They've got, I think, 80 world leaders speaking at the summit, and they're strategizing how to accelerate the implementation of these things, so that people have an understanding of how really dangerous these are. Right after they were adopted, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, came out and bragged through all their propaganda organs that they played a crucial role in developing this. They call it Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. And so right now they're actually laying the foundation for next year, the 2024, they call it the Summit of the Future, where they're going to radically empower the United Nations using the SDG as a roadmap for every area of government, law, life, family, education, healthcare, you name it. That's just so significant, and it's really not being reported much in the American media.
And Alex, zooming in on that, especially on the SDGs and China's involvement, help us understand why the Chinese Communist Party is involved and so involved.
Well, the Communist Chinese Party is actually really, really active in the United Nations. A lot of people don't realize this. Not only do they have a permanent seat at the Security Council, they have actual members of the CCP running numerous agencies. In fact, more than any other nation. The U.S. government only controls a fraction, or Americans, I should say, only control a fraction of the specialized agencies of the UN. So the CCP has done a very deliberate initiative here where they're trying to take over UN agencies. They're trying to shift UN policies and international agreements in their direction. And actually, as you read Agenda 2030, the kind of communist totalitarian bent really comes through loud and clear. If you go to, for example, goal number 10, they actually are calling openly for not just national socialism, not just national wealth redistribution, but global wealth redistribution. They say repeatedly in this document that governments in the UN must change consumption and production. Of course, if governments are going to change consumption and production, that requires taking control of the means of production. I mean, all of this stuff is just slightly reworded talking points coming out of the Communist Manifesto, coming out of Xi Jinping's little book. And so people need to be very aware. You know, when the former Secretary General of NATO, Javier Solana, a self-described socialist, described Agenda 2030 as the next great leap forward, we should have been paying really close attention.
And on that note, what does America's future look like if this gets adopted?
Well, Barack Obama purported to sign up for it in 2015. Thankfully, this was never presented to the U.S. Senate for ratification, and therefore it doesn't even have the appearance of legitimacy. It's not a binding treaty. That doesn't mean that they're not implementing it, right? Joe Biden and previously Barack Obama were using executive orders, federal regulations to try to bring these goals to pass. If this happens, if this continues to move forward, there's another 7 or 8 years before the next goals are set to come in. You can expect life on this planet to be radically restructured. It would be a massively more empowered United Nations, far less freedom. When they talk about wealth redistribution, I think it's important to point this out too. Their vision of wealth redistribution is looting the American middle class and redistributing the wealth of the American middle class to the CCP, to the CCP's allies who have impoverished and kept in poverty the people of what used to be called the Third World. This is a very, very dangerous vision. When you look at what they're talking about in education in goal number 4, they're very clearly talking about indoctrination. They want the children, they say in there, to be so indoctrinated. They won't just accept these UN ideas, really CCP-backed UN ideas. They will promote them, is the terminology that's used there. So we're really talking about drastic limitations on individual freedom, radical restructuring of the economy, and ultimately an end to self-government. So the stakes could not be higher here. Thankfully, we still have a lot of tools in the United States to make sure that this, I would call it a horror show, does not fully get imposed on the American people.
Indeed. Well, Alex Newman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.